And one of the conversations I had not long ago was with a lady who was in her 90s, and she said, I don't want a funeral. And I said, why don't you want a funeral? She's like, well, frankly, I've been to plenty of them and they all suck. And I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? And she was like, frankly, they just don't speak to me. And I'm like, but no one
Yeah.
said yours had to be like those ones. Like, we
That's
can do
right.
something totally different. And she was like, really?
We all are gonna die. 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 Why don't we help each other prepare for it? Without death, there could not be life. I'm talking about end of life conversations, conversations about the end of life. Death and dying, grief and loss, conversations about the end of life.
Hello, everybody. I am the Reverend Wakil David Matthews, and we are so glad to have you here today. On today's episode, we are really looking forward to meeting Jess Wakefield, who is a Certified Funeral Service Practitioner, or CFSP. Jess is a licensed funeral director, embalmer, celebrant, and end-of-life doula with over 15 years of service across the West Coast. We've really been impressed by her postings on Substack, and in fact, we used one of them with her permission in our last newsletter, and may do that again.
Yes. Well, and I am the Reverend Mother Ana Luisa Armendariz, and I am so delighted to have Jess be with us this morning. She is a director of operations and co-founder of Everest, a modern holistic funeral service company. She is the past president of the Washington State Funeral Directors Association, a certified funeral service practitioner, and a recipient of the 2022 LW Tech Foundation Distinguished Alumni Award. Her work emphasizes compassion, transparency, environmental stewardship, and the sacredness of death care. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jess.
Thanks for
so
having
great.
me.
Yeah, really have been
Yeah.
impressed by all the work you're doing. So,
Why, thank you.
we always like to kind of begin and get a feel for our guests by finding out more about when you first became aware of death.
Ooh, I was little. My first experience with death was I was probably in second or third grade, and we had the unfortunate experience in our family where a small toddler in our family was hit by a car. And that was the first funeral I ever attended. Big Catholic mass, open casket adventures. Very much felt weird as a kid going to this because she was so young. Most of us didn't really get a chance to know her, but the immediate family with her did. And so that was my first experience. And then it kind of just slowly snowballed from there. In high school, I lost a few friends. I mean, I'm part of the group that had a lot of fun in high school, and some of us didn't make it through. Others did. And as that kind of, when I first got to college, I wasn't even remotely looking into the idea of like working in this space at all. I was more looking into the environmental impact and like environmental science side of things because I wanted to save the planet. Because we all have that theory, right? Like we're going to save the planet. So I went and got a degree in environmental chemistry and just learned that I needed the people, not the science of it. And so I went back to school and was looking at doing nursing of some kind. And then through that process, I met someone who was running a funeral home and they kind of said, nah, you need to come with us over here. Come work with us over here. And so I made the change and fell in love. And in that process, I lost an aunt, an uncle, a mother-in-law, all within a few years. And watching how each part of my family reacted to to death itself, or the experience of going through the process of making arrangements, celebrating life, were so drastically different. Some completely shut down and were like, nope, we're just going to do the bare minimum and we don't want to talk about it. Like that's going to change the fact that the person's gone. And others made it a big deal and we did huge celebrations for them. And so that was my moment where I was like, we can do better as humans in celebrating what is and what was and what will continue to be, because we don't end when we end our experience here because we live on in the stories and the
Right.
conversations of others.
That's
So
right.
it's a big part of what I try to push for is
Mm-hmm.
we don't stop talking about people. And
Yeah.
I don't ever, when I'm working with families, I don't ever refer to them as was
Mm.
or,
Right.
you
They
know, what
are.
was their name? No, what is their
Mm.
name?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for me,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that's
that's
a
a
big,
good
piece
idea.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great. I've
Wow.
had conversations like that too. I'm certainly going to change that way of saying it from now on. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's so
Yeah.
funny too, because I think recently I did talk to somebody and I used the present tense
Hmm.
and I noticed that I did that. And then as I did that, I realized like, yeah, they're still here. And I just, it was very normal to just like, hey,
Yeah.
so, yay, they're still here. Like, no, tell
It's
me more.
true, right?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
even if it's just in your heart or in like the conversation, it's still they're still in existence.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
because you cease to physically be here doesn't mean that your
Right.
spirit and your energy is not here with us because
Correct.
energy doesn't
Yeah.
end. It just
Yeah.
Yeah.
changes, right?
That's
So,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. So, Jess, you actually just answered my question, which was tell us how death impacts the story. You very beautifully and succinctly gave us this trajectory of this initial second grade experience with a toddler's death to I wanted to, bring more change, more humanity to the
Mhm.
passing of people. But can you tell us, like, as you thought about it, throughout your life, like, I hear you talking about we can do better and they're
Mhm.
not really gone. So, is there anything else that you would like to tell us about that trajectory of your life to bring you to
Yeah.
this moment?
Yeah, I guess a big piece of like my experiences having worked in funeral homes and seeing the transitions from old school big services, usually religious based experiences that may or may not have spoken to people. And that's kind of why I think a
Hmm.
lot of that's starting to shift and change to
Hmm.
I do find that we're much more becoming a disposal industry in a way where
Mm.
Hmm.
like that direct cremation experience is, we're doing it. A lot of families are doing it because of cost, which I totally,
Right.
totally understand.
Right.
Yeah.
But when we then don't do anything to celebrate that life or continue
Hmm.
the conversation about how we want to honor them, it just becomes a transactional experience. That's the
Yeah.
part
Hmm.
that for me, I really hope to see more change in because I'm not going to say that it's affordable cremation is not valid because it is, but we have to
Right.
remember to do something other than bringing that urn home and sticking it in a shelf on a closet. We gotta
Right.
be continuing that conversation of, "Okay, now
Right.
what?"
Yeah.
Because we as funeral planners and funeral directors, we don't have to be involved in every part of that process, but it's super important to us that you do something to
Mhm.
Hmm.
continue the process of the healing process of celebrating as well, because
Hmm.
when we celebrate lives and we talk about them, it does assist us with that healing process in the
That's
Yeah.
right.
grief as well.
So it's actually really curious because I have been to celebrations of life where that urn is actually, right smack in the middle of the room and
Mhm.
everybody's talking about the person. But I have heard stories of people who do tuck those urns into the back of the closet, waiting
Yep.
for, I'm not
Something.
exactly sure. But so, so does the funeral industry have conversations with people? Like,
Mm.
you'll get your cremains and then you can choose to do XYZ?
I would love to
Excuse
say
me.
bless you.
Sorry.
I would love to say that most of us do, but it's
Mhm.
hard to know that for a fact
Yeah.
because each individual that's working with families has a different way of doing things. I've
Mhm.
always asked the question of like, what's the plan? Like, what are we doing?
Mhm.
Are we
Mhm.
scattering? I try to plant some ideas. Are we placing
Right.
in a cemetery? Are we scattering? Are we gonna go to the forest? Are we gonna go to the beach? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Because I think it's super important that we do something
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
in
yeah.
some way. If it's in the garden, great. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
make sure you're
Yeah.
doing something.
Yeah.
I think some people are scared, right, of doing it
Mhm.
wrong.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I just found out a friend discovered that were multiple urns in the back of his wife's closet.
Wow.
And,
Mhm.
it was like, what happened? Why are they all here?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think part of it, it is like this terror of like not getting it right. So it's really, that's another part of the conversations, right? That we need to encourage people, like, it's
Here's a
all going to be right.
newsflash, right? Like, here's the
It's right.
newsflash, though, right? Like, if it means something to you, it is not wrong.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I feel the same way about funeral services. Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
one of my least favorite things when families come in is they go, "Oh, well, what's normal? What is everybody else doing?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
No.
we're
That
going to
doesn't
stop
matter
you
at
there.
all.
What's important to you is what really
Uh-huh.
matters. And
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's something that we all need to think about as we're coming to that end of life phase as well. Or even if we're not,
Yeah.
I have this
Right.
conversation with my family a lot. I'm like, you guys better be laughing and singing and dancing and crying all at the same
Right.
time at my funeral. Like,
Right.
that's just the way it's got to be.
Right.
Like, you're gonna play videos of me being a total weirdo, and then you're also gonna be sad. But I think that there's some celebration in that of moving on to the next adventure. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, for me, I don't love the idea of not having a plan. So I always try to convince other people to like have this conversation, even if it's
Right.
awkward. And I find
Right.
that like most people struggle to talk about their family members, but they will definitely tell you what they want. And
That's
so
right.
I've kind of started making it more about, okay, let's talk about you. Now, how do you think your parents would feel about that? And that's where you
Mm-hmm.
start to get the idea of like how their parents would probably want themselves celebrated. Because if they're
Mm-hmm.
against what you think you would want for yourself, maybe that's the direction you want to lean for them, right?
Yeah.
So
I love that. It's
it's like
funny.
reverse psychology kind of at
Right.
work, right? So
That's great.
I very much try to kind of through conversation find out the best route
Mhm.
for them and their family.
Mhm.
But I don't know
Huh.
that every funeral director out there really takes the time or knows to dive that deeply into, okay,
Right.
what are we doing
Yeah. Yeah.
post disposition? Because a lot of funeral directors probably are like, okay, well, you're cremating and you're going to do whatever your family's going to do. But I don't know that they're all thinking,
Mhm.
they might not have a plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I love that you're expanding that whole
Mhm.
idea, and I hope people are paying attention. I love that that's kind of your
Mhm.
ministry, your mission, if you will, in the
Mhm.
work you're doing on Substack, and to really kind of raise that awareness that people can do this differently, and that
Mm-hmm.
and I think what's important for our audience is to have that expectation that the funeral people that they're working with should be doing this in a better way, and that now
Mhm.
they know what they should expect, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in the very big, broadest picture of our collective ministry is that we want people to have conversations,
Yeah,
Yes.
with each
absolutely.
other, with the funeral. So maybe some funeral directors are not going to be comfortable talking about what to do with the cremains. Uh, but you might show up and be like, "Hey, what can I do? Where can I go? Will
Mm-hmm.
you host a cremation party?" Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing? So,
Yeah,
Right.
I hope
Yeah.
it's all about just, being comfortable, maybe even being uncomfortable in that
yeah,
moment, but
yeah.
still showing up and doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that kind of leads into the next part of the conversation that we like to ask about your work,
Yeah.
and more about your work. I mean, part of what I'm seeing in the podcast, I don't know, I guess the blogs that you're doing, whatever you're calling them, um, and every day, and wow, that just blows me away.
my
um,
my backlog of knowledge
yeah.
dumping.
Yeah, so beautiful and such much wonderful stuff is this kind of sense of let's do this differently, and
Mhm.
how can we support each other, especially. I love that part too. So maybe talk more about what your vision and hope for is
Yeah.
for the future and what the work you're doing to push that
Yeah,
vision.
so a big part of this started for me back when I was doing more research about the history of funeral service in general,
Mhm.
and learning that it became an industrious industry item with the change of, like, the Industrial Revolution and, like, the licensing requirements, and then shifting everything over to being more male-dominated businesses because women can't be licensed, can't be paid, like, we can't hold jobs, what? So,
Mhm.
we kind of I feel like as I was looking through the history of this and like how it was such a female dominated business of like caretaking, almost as it just like we do with death doulas and that same or death doulas and birth doulas, same concept, right? So as we transitioned from more of from the female perspective of caring for the dead to the male perspective of caring for the dead became much more transactional. We
Yeah.
definitely lost the emotional connection to us, the whole process of death and dying. And that's
Yeah.
not to say that every male influence was that way, but it definitely overarchingly shifted the whole industry or profession.
Sure.
And as we're transitioning now back to a much more female dominated industry, I mean, our mortuary schools are having enrollments of like 90% women.
Yes.
And
I know.
so
That's great.
graduation rates is closer to 70%, but still, like, that's a really large percent that women are coming back into this. And with that, we're coming into this space where we're expected to perform on a more male dominated viewpoint of how this is supposed to like be an experience for families. And I'm finding a lot of us were just like, this is so not okay. Like,
Right.
how do we back up and make this much more of an emotional human experience versus a transactional one? And so that's kind of where my love for diving in and being like kind of a tree shaker started. I was kind of this can't be the way that it is forever, because one, we're going to lose the consumer, because as things have started to shift, and luckily things are shifting about the same time as the women are kind of really starting to take over, we're seeing a lot more families asking for more.
Yeah.
That
Good.
more hands-on
Wow.
experience. We want
Beautiful.
more green experiences. We want we want to do bigger, more celebrations, not church services where they do the two psalms, one's, one poem, and then the preacher says their name wrong twice. Like, we've been there, we've done it. I can't tell you how many times I've done that, but I think everybody's over it. And one of the conversations I had not long ago was with a lady who was in her 90s, and she said, I don't want a funeral. And I said, why don't you want a funeral? She's like, well, frankly, I've been to plenty of them and they all suck. And I was like, I was like, wait, what? And she was like, frankly, they just don't speak to me. And I'm like, but no one said yours had to be like those ones. Like, we
That's
could do
right.
something totally different. And she was like, really? So I think we have that fear of not fitting the norm sometimes. And so when especially with the older generation, when they're like, well, I mean, I would love a party, but I don't really want to do that. Let's do it. No one said it had to be a church service. No one said that
That's
we
right.
had to have mass. No one said we had to do any of it. Like, you make your own thing. And I think
Great.
that's
That's right.
really starting to shift to we're seeing more people ask for services. We're seeing
Oh,
more.
it's so
We're
wonderful.
seeing more of that. It's slow, but it's starting, and it's definitely one of those situations where when you give the people what they're looking for,
Right.
they're going to want to do it.
Yeah.
But if
Or
we
you
try to fit people in this box, right,
Right.
then we're going to be like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're giving them we're being curious about what they would like, right? Like you're like, so
Yeah.
what would you like?
I want to know all about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's
so
so great.
funny.
That's like compassionate listening and paying attention and all these things we learn in the work of grief counseling, etc. So yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope it really impacts the way our audience thinks about what's going to happen to them and how they let people know what they'd like to have happen to them as well.
And
Yeah.
in that space, I always suggest, like, if you're thinking about what you want to do, or like planning for yourself for the future, call the funeral homes in your area. Find the one that is willing to kind of listen and build with you versus somebody who's like, yep, here's our price list. Because you really do need somebody who is going to take the time to listen
So
and
true.
and kind of build what you're looking for. Whether that's a simple graveside service with 10 people present and nothing special to, as far as you're concerned, nothing special. To me, that would be really special. But to the extravagant big hooplas that we can see being done too. So
That's right.
there's no right answer.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just have a quick question too, because it occurs to me that you use funeral homes, but I have performed celebrations of life funerals, and I've never gone through a funeral home.
You can definitely do it either way.
So,
Yeah.
People can also choose to
Do it on your own.
you could do the cremation, and then you can like pick a spot and do it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
Absolutely.
I don't know if I've shared this on this podcast, but when my sister died, I asked if we could do it at a fire station because she loved the firemen.
Hmm.
And because she
I
had
love
been such a
that.
huge, like, fireman supporter and used the fire department quite a bit because she was disabled and often fell. And so they said yes. And so I had her funeral at the fire station with, like, city council, her birds, a
I
popcorn
love it.
machine, ice cream, and a, what is it called? The sugar
Oh,
Oh, the
sugar,
cotton candy.
cotton
cotton
candy
candy. Yeah.
machine.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And
So
we had
cool.
all that out there and music going. And it was this big carnival essentially, right?
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, and so, I people always say like, "That's so cool." I'm like, "Yeah, like, why not?" My
Yeah,
sister
right.
Yeah.
would have loved it. Like,
Yeah.
that's what she wanted.
Mhm.
So you don't have to have somebody tell you what you can and can't do. You can
Nope.
actually just go and do it.
Yeah.
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 I
And
had a friend of mine who was very into, like, charity events and galas. She just loved them, getting dressed up for anything at all. And when she passed away, her family
Mhm.
decided they were gonna host a huge
Oh,
black tie event because that's something she would have loved. And so
love
Yeah.
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so we had the huge champagne freaking, like, fountain thing, and, it was
Yeah.
amazing, and we did it at a hotel, like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it was n the funeral home was not involved, and so, yeah, you can. There's
Wow.
so many different things you can do. I mean, we've seen people do, like, the gatherings on the ocean, everybody on their
Mhm.
Mhm.
surfboards,
Mhm.
I've
Mhm.
seen it a lot of different options, and so
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing is to stop asking what everybody else is doing and ask what you want,
That's
right?
right.
Like,
That's
what do
right.
you
Exactly.
wanna do?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
great.
Mhm.
There's nothing off the table, basically.
No.
Yeah. I
Mm-mm.
love that. That's so, so really
I
important.
mean,
Thank you.
and if you're
Mm.
working with a funeral director for this process because you want the help with that, that's great
Mhm.
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
most of us are going to be able to help do whatever we can within the legal reasoning, right?
That's
So,
right.
like,
Yeah.
as long as they're not breaking any laws, most of us are going to be so excited to help you do something different and exciting that I
Yeah.
Yep.
don't think you would have a problem finding somebody who's willing to help.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And
Yep.
it's also now where more and more doulas are out there that also
Mm-hmm.
have that expertise and can help you walk through that.
Exactly.
And others like you, like Anna Luisa and I have both worked as counseling, grief counseling, and
Yeah.
people. There's a lot of people out there now, especially because we're doing this
Mhm.
work to get the
Mhm.
conversations going. There's a lot of people that you can reach out to. If it's a
And thank
spiritual
goodness for
person,
that.
spiritual teacher, or whatever, there's a
Mhm.
lot of people you
Mhm.
can reach out to and basically just point to
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
with, this is what would be cool for me.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And then
that's a
write it
great
down.
thing. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Write it down and make
Mhm.
sure everybody
Write
knows
it
where to
down.
find it.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Wakil, did you ask her what her current role is?
Yeah, yeah, we talked about it. Yeah,
Okay, but do you have a title like for that? Like you're at a
So
funeral home right now?
So I am at a funeral home right now.
Okay,
So I met with Everest, and I
that's
am
right.
the
Okay.
director of operations. And so my role is very much I help I'm helping build out all of the customer service and customer facing interactions
Mm,
with the families that we're working with for when they do pass. So we offer cremation. We offer access to local funeral homes that will provide green burial options, um, terramation, as well as aquamation in some areas,
mhm,
depending
Beautiful.
on
Okay.
where we are. So we're trying to make sure that it's an experience that is modern, but also is very old school in a way too. So
Right.
we do all of our arrangements virtually. So you do not physically have to come into the funeral home. So if you want to do your arrangements at 10 p.m. with a glass of wine in your pajamas, more power to you. We'll help you out. So one of the big things for me is as I've spent 15 plus years working in larger funeral homes, there were many conversations I had with people who were like, I just physically do not want to be here. I don't want
yeah.
to be in your building. We were here when my mom
Mhm.
passed. It brings back bad memories.
Mhm.
Like, I just don't want to do it. And so, as we were building Everest, the conversation very leaned to why do we need that?
Mm,
Why do we physically have to come in? Especially in
Mhm.
today's era where, like, you can do everything over the internet.
Right.
So, we decided we don't need to.
mm,
And
Mhm.
so we are doing everything virtually. If we have families that have accessibility issues or are struggling to kind of figure it out, we're more than happy to come to them or meet them somewhere so that we can finalize
Mhm.
everything in a way that isn't coming into the funeral home itself.
Mhm.
mhm. I
Mhm.
love that.
Yeah, so would you say that that's so my question to you should have been was like, what are your biggest challenges? Is that a challenge for when people really are resistant to going into the building?
No, I would say that
No?
maybe 15% of the people that we worked with were kinda like they get really nervous about being in funeral homes. I would s
Okay.
Most people probably don't. It's just a building to them, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Um, but my biggest thing was doing it on your own timeline. So
Mm.
if
Mhm.
I say to you, "Oh, can you meet at 10 a.m.?" We have a 10 a.m. slot or a 1 p.m. slot, like, which
Right.
one works for you? It
Right.
really shrinks down, like, and
Yeah.
forces you to be much more organized at a time when the grief is just really kinda rolling, and
Yeah.
so,
Oh,
if I
that's
say to you,
interesting.
"Can you please get the following thing done before in the
Mhm.
next 48 hours?" You can do it when you're ready to do it. So
Mhm.
that means if
Mhm.
you wanted to sign documentation at 2 a.m. because you're awake and you're feeling like you need to get it done,
Mhm.
great.
Mhm.
Mhm.
All
But it
right.
doesn't matter to me when it's getting done.
That's great. Yeah, that's so
That
Yeah.
nice.
is
So
really
open.
good.
Open
Yeah.
changes a lot of what people and I love the sensitivity to where people are in that grief, and that's
Mhm.
something we've
Mhm.
always talked about and pay attention to, try to pay attention to. And
Yeah,
it's really important.
it actually like, I just wrote down, like, time and grief and how time is compounded while you're in the grief mode,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so you giving it sacred space to just kind of flow rather than you're forced to do what I think you need to do now, right? So,
Right, right.
that is incredibly sacred and very sensitive. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
I think it
exactly.
stems from, like, the whole idea for me as I watched a very close friend of mine, his husband passed away, and I was physically present when he passed. And,
Mhm.
I was there for hours of before and after and the whole process. And so this person, he was a funeral director, his husband was not, but he was a funeral director, and we both knew what the next steps were. We both know how this is supposed to work, and
Mhm.
when I watched him completely forget everything
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
and just become a family in grief,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yes.
this it was
Wow.
eye-opening for me as a professional to be
Mhm.
like, "Oh my gosh, if someone who knows exactly what the next
Mhm.
steps are is going, okay, Jess, now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, now what?" That means that no
Mhm.
one has a clue what's going on
Mhm.
once somebody passes away. And I also noticed in that process that there was no way, even though he knew exactly what needed to happen and what documents needed to happen and what was needing to be decided on, there was no way for him to do that in the
Mm.
timeline that we wanted him to. And
Uh,
so
Mhm.
I very much was like, take your time. We are in no hurry. We know what you wanna do, we know what your husband wanted, and so
Mhm.
you just let me know when you're ready to come in and make decisions. And he's like, "I don't wanna come in. I don't want to come in." And I was like,
Mhm. Mhm.
"Okay, I'll come to
yeah.
you."
Yeah.
And
Wow.
Mhm.
he was a coworker of mine coming into work to do arrangements for his
Mhm.
husband and didn't wanna physically come in, and
Mhm.
he's like
Mhm.
that was a twofold issue, right? Like, he's like, "I don't want everybody to fawn on me and be like, 'Oh my gosh, we're so sorry.'" He's like, "I'm not ready for it."
Yeah.
And number
Mhm.
2, I don't I don't wanna make these arrangements
Mm.
because it's admitting
Mhm.
that I have to, and I don't want to.
Yes.
Wow.
And so
Oh.
I kind of that was eye-opening for me
Yeah.
in the process of like, wow, maybe we are rushing this a little bit when we have
Mhm.
families
Mhm.
who've passed and then the next day we're like, "Make arrangements." Like,
Mhm.
why are we doing that to ourselves? Well, sometimes we need
Mhm.
48 hours to just kinda be like, "Holy cow, this is real. Okay,
Mhm.
process a little bit and then start making decisions."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm.
because I know I've been through this
Mm.
too, and probably all of us have, and the sense that the world is upside down and doesn't seem like it's real anymore, and it doesn't
Mhm.
make any sense anymore, and to try to be figuring out, okay, and what do I practically do right now when all you want to do is lay there and go fuck, you know,
Right?
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
um,
Yeah.
last thing I wanna do is pick out flowers right now because I don't really
right.
like
Right.
flowers right now. Like, can
Right.
we
I kind of
not?
hate flowers.
Write the
Yeah, like
obituary and make the phone
yeah.
calls. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of work to do in
yeah.
those
Yeah.
moments.
Which
Yeah,
also
and
is why it's so important to do as much as you can ahead of time for folks.
mhm.
That's another preaching
Yeah.
thing
Mhm.
that we do here.
Mhm.
Talk about
Mhm.
getting it
Yeah.
done as much as possible. You're going to help your loved ones so much by
Mm. So
getting
true.
all as much of that as you can done ahead of time, and it's
Hmm.
the way you want it. That way.
Yeah.
So Yeah. Do you have any fear of dying yourself?
No.
There you go.
I fear being in pain
Yeah.
more than I
Mhm.
fear the actual process of not being
Dying.
here or dying.
Mhm.
Right.
I look at it as the last great adventure. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
none of us know what happens after that. So how
Yes.
do I know I don't get to go on some extremely cool adventure? I don't know.
Right? That's what
Like,
I'm right there with you.
I try to be on the optimistic side of it. Like, I just, yeah, I don't really fear it at
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
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 And I definitely wouldn't say I'm looking forward to it, but I don't have any overarching fear. I fear more losing the people around me that I love, like,
Yeah.
losing
Mhm.
your parents or spouse or those types of things. I definitely struggle more with those items than myself, for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, even if all it is I am soil, that's perfect.
Right?
I get to finally
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I can
You
rest
know?
and create other things with my body. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. That's so great. Thank you.
So,
For,
in this work that you're doing, how do you keep yourself resourced when days are a little harder than most? And what do you do?
Woo, that's a loaded question. Yeah. For me, people are everything, right? So
Mhm.
I have my core group of friends that are very supportive, very good listeners.
Mhm.
Um, I tend to lean into them a lot when I have those days where I'm like, holy moly. Um, but overall, the families are what really give me back most of what I need. Um,
Mm.
being able
Mm.
to really feel like I'm helping or assisting families is
Mhm.
probably the biggest part of it.
Wow.
Mhm.
There's nothing better than a family that reaches out to you later and says, "I could have never made it through this without you."
That's
Um,
right.
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
those are my bread and butter when it comes to like remembering why I do this.
Mm.
Mhm.
For sure.
Yeah. That's great. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
That's what a wonderful thing. What a wonderful legacy too that you're
Mhm.
creating and that you're embodying. You're embodying this sense of caring for people in a way that is real and is open
Yeah.
and is thoughtful and compassionate. Loving that. Loving that.
Yeah, and, it's about being in service, and when you're in
Mhm.
service, you really do get your cup filled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's your giving and you're supporting, and yeah, it's like a circle. So, I
Yeah.
love this.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, this is pretty much where we wanted to get to. Is there anything we didn't ask you that you wish we could have asked you about? Oh, and I do want to ask real quickly, looking at the introduction again, can you tell us what the LW Tech Foundation is? And then if there's anything we didn't ask that you'd like to tell us.
Yeah, yeah. So the LW Tech Foundation is a scholarship and alumni foundation from Lake Washington Technical
Oh,
School.
okay.
So they are the only mortuary program in Washington State, which is
Oh,
where I graduated from. And then each year they award a alumni distinguished alumni award.
hmm.
And it's from the entire school history. So it
Wow.
doesn't matter when you graduated, what year, what program, they picked one person
Mm.
each year. And I
Mm.
happen to have been 2022's nominated and selected winner.
For a good reason.
So great,
Yeah.
yes.
For good
Yeah.
reason. Yeah.
A
Well, is
big
there
part of
anything
that
else?
is
I'm sorry,
just
go ahead.
like a big part of the reason why I was put on the list of uh nominations was more along the lines of what I was giving back to the school when I was there.
Oh, okay.
Because I
Mhm.
was definitely volunteering a lot of time and education mentorship, but
Mm.
also
Mhm.
educating community as well. And so one of the instructors decided they were like, "Oh my gosh, we have to do something nice to thank her
Mhm.
for all this work."
Aw.
And I
Uh,
think that was where it kind of came from. But it was such an honor and
yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So cool. So great. Well deserved. So, yeah,
Yes.
is there anything else that you wish we'd have asked you about that you'd like to share before we call this an
Ooh.
interview?
You know, nope. I think you guys did such a great job.
Mm,
I
Cool.
mean, I could talk to you for hours, so
yeah,
We could all probably talk for hours, I
yeah,
know.
and that
With
happens.
death is our jam.
yep. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for the work you're doing and
Yes.
for all
Thank
you
you.
shared with us. We really appreciate you, and that direction is so important for us to all pay attention to. You did provide us a
Very, very
quote that's from a Jewish proverb that says, "What is remembered lives.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then we have her words well, with you until grief becomes love remembered.
Hmm.
Let me read that again. With you until grief becomes love remembered.
Yep.
And we will put information in the podcast about how to find her, and she'll send links for her. But if you were looking for her Substack, it's with you until. So
Yeah.
it's part of that quote. And I can't say enough about how impressed I've been with the work you're doing and
Oh, well,
the
thank
stuff
you.
on the Substack. So keep working, keep doing this, keep spreading the word, and we'll say goodbye for now. And I'll let you know
Yay.
when this goes live.
Perfect. Thank you so much. You guys have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. Please stick around after the credits for our afterthoughts, and it helps our numbers if you stay until the end. We want to thank my children, Nate, Vivian, Nina, and her fiance Asher, for the excellent opening song, and a special thanks to our awesome editor, Sam Zemke, who is also a guest on our podcast. You can listen to him on Season 4, Episode 5. Also, thank you to Charles Heaston, the composer of the original music you are listening to now.
And of course, thanks to you, our audience, and all of our amazing guests. Please come back next week for another great episode. Share this with your friends, family, and community. We hope you will subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack. Each guest's additional information will be found in the podcast notes. And of course, if you have a good end-of-life story to share, please reach out. We are always eager to hear from you. Oh, always.
Always, always, always.
Every single time, I am just like, I wish they were my neighbors so that we
Yeah,
could sit
yeah.
and talk over the fence about what kind of parties we're going to have when we die.
Yeah, I so loved her perspective and her widening of the idea of caring for people as a funeral director to include everything, the beginning, the middle, the end, and to create that sense of this is how we remember people. That's
That's
so
right.
important. She does such a great job.
She does, but I'm really curious, like why it's like funeral directors kind of jobs have been truncated over time, right? It has lost a lot of that human touch aspect. Like it is
Yeah,
very transactional. I take your body and then we do this and then you get it and then carry on.
yeah,
And I appreciate that she's really reinvigorating this pathway for people to talk about the entirety of this portal that people are walking through, right?
exactly.
Like,
Yeah, it's so good, so important, and yeah, I think when it became corporate and
that's
became
right.
about money, then we had to shrink it down and make more efficient. And so now to open that up in this generous, compassionate, loving way, so wonderful,
Mhm.
so important.
Mhm.
All right, well, we were very blessed again,
Yes,
and,
always. Mm.
and we'll look forward to our next episode. And I have no idea what that is, so I won't be able to do that this time. But
Stay
um,
tuned.
stay tuned. Come back again next time. All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Anne Louise.
Thank you.